second. Okay. Welcome everyone to what you need to know about pricing. Gloria, can you go ahead and go to the next screen for me?
Yeah, they're gonna.
Okay. I want to just talk a little bit about SCORE as we get going. SCORE has a couple different roles in the small business world. One is to offer training. You guys are all here for this webinar today. Definitely keep an eye on the newsletter. We'll have our offerings for January coming up. We do have a couple left in December. And then we'll be starting up full steam again in January with a lot of great webinars that and some new ones too. So definitely keep an eye out for that. We also have a great website that has a ton of information that you can access 24 hours a day. So I will give you those website addresses here shortly. But I want to talk about the most important thing that SCORE does, which is mentoring. We work with business owners at all different stages. We work with those that are just thinking about starting a business, those that are in that process, and those that are already in business. You do not have to have your business license. You do not have to have a business plan to come and see a mentor. We're there to help you get organized. We're there to help you get focused and get on the right path for you, for where you are in your business. SCORE is a national organization, and we can reach out to that database of mentors nationwide should we need to answer questions that you have, although we do a pretty good job covering it here at our district level. So a lot of people ask me what a mentoring session is like if you've never been on one. The first session will run you probably about 30-45 minutes, and it will be a get to know you. You'll get to know your mentor, you'll get to know, they'll get to know you, and work on putting together that plan for you going forward to keep working with that person. Are you stuck with the same mentor? No, that's not always the case. Oftentimes mentors will forward you to other mentors or bring in other mentors to co-mentor, so to speak. Sometimes you can end up with a team of mentors that have different backgrounds that can help you. There are the chapter websites I mentioned earlier. I put those in chat. Again, you can find links on how to get a mentor, where you can look at our workshop offerings. And of course, there's the library section that has lots of tools and templates. You can also just put a note in chat and I'll reach out to you and get you scheduled with a mentor, make sure the right chapter gets attached with you. We are going to use Q&A. We can use chat for anything miscellaneous, but if there's a question you want asked to our presenter, please put it in that Q&A tab so I don't lose track of the questions, because sometimes there can be a lot of other things in chat and they can get lost a little bit in there. So definitely use that Q&A tab. We do not have a poll at the end, but you will get a little survey from SCORE later on asking you how we did today. That's all I have. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Gloria. You're on mute. Gloria, you're on mute.
Okay. My name is Gloria Spence, and I've been with SCORE for about 5 years. And my background is corporate background. I was the director of finance for Hearst Television. And so my background is all finance, budgets, profit and loss statements, accounting, anything related to financial. So that's a little bit about me. And so what's the objective of today's workshop? Well, today's workshop is how to, at the bottom line is how to increase your profits. And how do you do that? A couple different ways. You can do it by increasing your sales. You can reduce your expenses. Or what we are here for today is you can increase the price of your product or service. All of them have their pluses and minuses. Increasing sales may sound easy, but it's not necessarily. Reducing your expenses, a lot of times you can only reduce your expenses so much. At the end of the day, this is something that is really important to review all the time, and that is your pricing. Now, I know we do have some businesses already on here who have been in business for a while, and that's a good thing, because pricing your product or service, it's not just something you do when you open up your store and you open up your business. It's something that you really need to look at on a regular basis. Now, I wouldn't suggest that you change your prices every week or every month or every 6 months, but I do think you need to be looking at it all the time, because you never know what is impacting your price, your profitability of your business. So I like to, what happens is, you know, the big question is where should I set my prices? How much do I charge? You know, there's always a big concern. Is what if I charge too much? I mean, you know, when you're starting out in a new business, even an old business, sometimes you just tend to be a little bit insecure about your pricing and the value of your product. And the other concern is charging too little. And what SCORE has found is that small businesses, new businesses, have a tendency to do that. They have a tendency to not charge enough. Either scenario, too much or too little, will have an impact on your business. You know, you may not be able to bring customers in because they may not be able to afford your pricing. They could be suspicious about your quality if the price is too low. Either way, both of these outcomes will cause underperforming of your cash flow and your profitability. So there's 3 factors involved in determining your pricing, and I really like to break them down to 2. One is costs or money or math, and the other one is marketing. And the first one is costs. You need to figure out your costs first. And the next one is you have to figure out your product strategy. And that one is controllable. This one is all up to you to decide. And then you also have to take into consider your market conditions, and these are not in your control. So with the costs, 2 things: you want to understand your fixed and your variable costs. A lot of businesses won't have variable costs, or if they do, they will be minimal. So this is not quite as hard. And also, too, I have found that if you are in a service business, it's a little bit easier to price your product or price your service than it is to price products. A lot more that goes into it with a product. In your product strategy, you know, where do you want to position your product? Who's your target market? And ultimately, what are your company objectives? To address the marketing conditions, it's very important to know what your competition is doing. We'll get into that a lot more later, but it's extremely important. And, you know, it may make a lot of these other things not matter. You may just have to charge what your competition's charging. But we'll talk a little bit more about that one. And then the market conditions. What is going on in your specific market? And also what is going on in your industry? And we'll talk more about these as we go. So fixed and variable costs. And if you have any questions as I'm going along, please throw them in there. And Teresa, when it's appropriate, Teresa will shout them out to me. So fixed and variable, as I mentioned before, not all businesses have variable costs. Everybody has fixed costs. And the variable costs really depend on the number or volume of products that you produce and sell. And so the cost, your cost, your business's cost, will be different if you sell 1 or if you sell 50, 500. So you have to always take your variable costs into consideration. If you don't have those variable costs, it's a lot easier to do this. And everybody has fixed costs. Are they underlying? They're the underlying costs to operate your business, and they're the ones that don't go away. These are the ones here. I'm sorry. These are the ones here that are the same, whether you sell more or less. These stay the same. The variable costs will change. They will definitely change when you sell more or less. And as the little footnote down says at the bottom, this is critical. This is really very critical because you have to know what your minimum number to charge is. Because if you don't, not only will you not be bringing more money in, but you're going to be eating away at any of your savings or your profits that you have accumulated or accumulating. Now, I have a couple slides here that does the math portion of this, so breaking even and, what do you need to charge? And I'm not really going to get into the actual math and detail of it, but I did want you to have these formulas available for you to use if you so desire. It can be a little bit scary.
Lori, would you consider payroll as part of the fixed or variable costs?
No, and payroll would be payroll would be a variable, because think about it. If, if you want to grow your business, if you want to produce more widgets, you're going to have to bring more payroll in, more people in. So that one, depending on what they are used for, if they are admin, if it's for you, then it would be a fixed cost. But if it's somebody who's on an assembly line, who's manufacturing with you, you're going to need more help, more hours to produce more materials. So salaries, in some cases, some of your salaries will be cost of goods sold. Again, it goes back to the type of business that you have. Good question. So anyway, I'm going to give you these formulas here, and you can take a look at them. They're a little bit scary, but as you can see here, there's only really pluses and minuses here. So it's not high math, it's just a concept that you got to wrap your head around. And here's another one too, that is another way of looking at it. Again, for your use for reference later on to kind of digest through it. So before we get into the 3 different components of pricing, I want to give you a couple examples. These are basic examples and these are service examples, but it kind of will give you a flavor. These will still be applicable to merchandise, to products as well. So I'm a web designer, and my costs on a monthly basis, and you do want to do your calculations ultimately on a monthly, not an annual basis. I mean, you can do it annually, but eventually you're going to have to break it down. My monthly costs are $5,000. My hourly rate, I'm self-employed, just me, is $50 an hour. So if I work a 40-hour work week, the income that I'm going to bring in is $8,000. My costs are going to be $5,000. So my profit is $3,000 a month before taxes. So what happens if I increase my rate by $10, I get a new profit on a monthly basis of $4,600, an increase of $1,600. Now, I always like to ask the question, are you going to lose a client for $10? That's a risk, but I think, that's why you have to decide whether it's $10 increase or a $25 increase. So the hourly rate of $75 would give you a new profit of $7,000 or $4,000 more than what you had before. Now, look what happens when you work more hours. You add 10 hours to your work week, keep the $50 rate. Now you're going to make $10,000 less your $5,000 expenses. You're now going to make $2,000 more a month, but now you're putting in 10 more hours. And if you did one of the other examples, if you did the $60 one, you'd be getting the same increase, less $400, but you could always change that and make it $62 or $63. So you kind of see what happens here if, your different choices. And these are the different scenarios that you should play with.
If you're a self-employed person, how do you factor in taxes in your break-even analysis?
The taxes, your income taxes are not a business expense. They are your own personal expenses, and they would not go through the business. So if you're going to make a profit of $3,000 a month, that's going to be $36,000 a year. So you're going to have to estimate what your taxes are based on your net profit. You don't have the deductions, et cetera, but you're going to have to do a different gyration once you focus on your business. But it's a good question. And the reason why it's a good question is, and I talk about this later on, it's a good question because in your pricing, eventually you will have to figure out how much money you want to get from your business. So, you have to incorporate that much money into your pricing in order to make sure that you have enough to live off or to make your business worthwhile. Maybe it'll be clearer toward as we talk more, and if it's not, feel free to ask the question again. Second example, a beauty salon. Total cost to operate a beauty salon is again $5,000 a month. The average price of services is $30. Now, you could go in there and make a list of all your different 10 services, your nails, your color, your cut, and, and have different breaks out. But it's extremely difficult to project how many haircuts you're going to do, anything you're going to do, unless you've been in business for a while and can see a pattern. So what I generally suggest is that you take an average of all of your prices of things that you do. You're going to kind of know, or will eventually know, which ones are better than, which ones you do more of than others, and you might weigh them a little bit more. But as a starting point, I always suggest that you kind of start out with an average. So then when you have an average price, then you can kind of break it down in this different way of looking at it. So in order for me to break even, to get $5,000 a month in income, I have to see 167 customers a month or 42 customers a week, with an average of spending $30 every time they come into my shop. So that's kind of a different way of looking at it. If I'm looking at my week ahead of time and I see that I have 50 clients scheduled for the week, then I should feel a little bit good. I know I'm at least I'm over, hopefully. But if you start to see only 20 a week or 30 a week, you got to figure out a way to get more people in. At that point, I might say, geez, your pricing could be too high, but you need to do some marketing to get some people in the business, into your shop. So the same scenario with an average price of going from $30 to $50 a month, you now profit $3,350. So again, but you have to, we'll get to the marketing piece of it, because now you got to figure out, what's the good price. Bottom line of all this, you have to know your costs before you can seriously begin pricing process. You need to really know what your costs are so that you can, that's your starting point. And if your costs are too high, they're too high. You have to figure either a way to chop them down or to increase your price. But again, I can't repeat enough. You got to know what your expenses are. And to the other attendees' question, you got to know how much you want to take from the business. How much do you need to be paid? You've got your own expenses at home. So what are those expenses? Do I need $3,000 to pay my bills and to have groceries? And you better make sure you get $3,000 a month. Otherwise, you're going to be going into your savings accounts and whatever, and you're not going to be in business very long. So don't ignore this factor. You do need to be paid. All right, so now we're going to talk about the product strategy. And again, these are controllable expenses or controllable ideas, because you've got to make a decision. These are your decisions. And so what do you want your customers how do you want your customers to view your product? Do you want it to be a high end? Do you want it to be a basic necessity? Do you want it to be something that it's economical? Or is it a discretionary? And the approach to any one of these is different, and what you would charge would be very different. The other thing you want to take into consideration is your geographic location. Is your business in a region? Specific, is it local? Is it just 3 blocks? Is it the whole city of Boston? What's your climate? Cold? I mean, there's definitely more SUVs sold up in the Northeast than there are other places. You probably have more convertibles sold in the South than you do in the North. And how populated is your area? I mean, is this your type of business that needs a lot of traffic and a lot of people, or do you only need 5? Demographics. We all hear about, different age groups wanting and needing different things. Which age group are you going to appeal to? Are you going to appeal to men or women? Are they going to be rich? Or are they going to be middle class? Do they work? Do they not work? What kind of work do they do? Are they educated? What's their nationality and race? I mean, there's all uniquenesses to each one of these demographics that you have to think about, how are you affecting these groups? Psychographic is a lifestyle. My lifestyle is, not me specifically, but I'm a gym rat. I like gyms. I go to the gym all the time. I lift weights. And, am I a reader? Am I a movie theater? And then also, what are your personal values too? If you're somebody who bikes and hikes, is your product going to appeal to them, or can you find a way for your product to appeal to them? Also, some behavioral issues. Is your business a one-time only one? Is it just for special occasions? Is it just for weddings or birthdays, or is it just a special occasion? And do you want to create, or have you created brand loyalty, where people will come back to you just because of you and the brand? Usage. How often do I as a consumer, will I use your product or service? And then the benefits from it. What kind of benefits? One of the benefits in today's world is convenience and delivery. Everything's being delivered to us. Is that important to your customer?
Gloria, do you have any suggestions on how you might find the psychographic information about people?
We refer our clients to the Boston Public Library. In the Kirstein Library section, they've got some very nice people who will help you research these things. The information that they have access to are paid subscriptions that you and I don't have and don't really want to get, and you're only going to use them like one time, but they would be more than happy to help you find what you're looking for in their database. So I would encourage you to reach out to them.
And I have one more question we can try and touch on now, or we might hold it for the end. I'm not sure. Does the price also can the price also be driven by competition? No matter how much my costs, can I really charge that much different than what's available in the market?
Yeah, that's a good question. And we will get to that. We can have lots of dialogue on that. Yes, we'll get to that.
Great.
Definitely. So, and then also your company objective. You want to be consistent with what your future goals are going to be. Do you plan on starting out with one product or two products and then expanding? Your services, the same thing. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you get into the business. You may start out with a bookkeeping business, and as you get in there and into the business and you find out, well, geez, there's a need for X, Y, and Z over here. Maybe I'll offer that. So you kind of, you have to be a little bit, if you know in your mind that, oh, I want to have a whole line of clothes, keep that in your mind, because that's how you want to run your business and price your business going forward as well. Company direction. I mean, where do you want to go with your company? Do you want it to be big? Do you want it to be small? Do you want to expand? Do you want a number of locations? Where do you want to go with that? Do you want to just build it up and then sell it? That's also something to think about, if that is something that you have in mind to do. Think about your company objectives in the short term and in the long term. I know when you're starting out, but you can't see very far away. Your vision is like just right what's in front of you, but ultimately you should look at your long-term goals as well. And I think some of the people on our call here will attest to that, because some of them have been in business for quite a few years, and here they are, trying to understand what this is. And this is very important that, as I said before, you need to look at this all the time, because your business is changing all the time. In your values, is it important for you to give back to the community? Do I want to give back? What's my feeling about not just my business, but my community as well? These are the market conditions, and these are what we cannot control. And it is your competition, as you asked before. And what you need to do here is you need to find out who your direct and your indirect competitors are. Let's just talk about your direct ones first. I mean, if you go back to the examples that we had, that I gave, the website, I mean, how do you find out what other website designers are charging? Call them up and you ask them. You can be a little bit coy and say, I'm looking, to have my website designed, and what's your rate? Sometimes they put it on their websites. Sometimes, surprisingly, you can reach out to your competition if they are not a direct competition. If you want to reach out to somebody who's in 4 towns over, because people aren't going to take your customers, or they're not going to take your customers away. It's just a more localized business. And if there is a sense of competition, then you can ask somebody in another city, another state. You'd be surprised how willing people would be to help you out, as long as it's not going to impact their business negatively. Indirect competitors. So, for example, if you have a business that's entertainment or a more broader area and discretionary income, good Lord, that could be anything. Discretionary income, you could think about entertainment. Well, geez, I could go to the movies, I could go to the play, I could go to the theater, I could go out to dinner, I could go bowling. All those different things are discretionary items. So, while I wouldn't lose sleep over all of them, they are something to think about. So to go back to the other question about your competition and how much they charge. So you could find out what they charge. For example, I always use the example of a pizza shop. Everybody's pizzas cost about the same, right? Unless your pizza is going to be really very different, you're not going to be able to charge much more than they are, especially if there's a pizza shop 3 doors down from you, which you often see. They don't seem to care about that position, direct competition. Sometimes they feed off of somebody else's customers. But when you've got a lot of your type of business in the market, you're not going to have a whole lot of choices of what to charge. Either you make your product very, very distinct, and that's what you promote and advertise. Why am I so different from the next door guy? Why am I charging $5 more for my pizza than theirs, or anything else, really? So, you can use that as an example, but again, it's not etched in stone, but you've got to distinguish yourself from them. Now, the other side of that is if you cut your pricing to compete with them, you have to make sure that you're going to make a profit. Because while you can understand and know what their price is, what they are charging their customers, you don't know what their profit is. You don't know if they are making any money or not, or if they are making enough. So, that's really the hard part. And so you have to be careful about this. You have to use it. But again, they could have people lined up outside their door, but they may not be making any money, or they may not be making as much as you need to. Maybe they've been in business a long time and they've established relationships with their vendors. So their vendors give them discounts that you as a newbie, or maybe you as anybody, are not getting. Okay. And then you need to know your competition well. You need to know what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. Do they have a high turnover? What do their customers say about them? You need to really get in their head. And then you have to determine where you fit in there. Am I going to be the same? Am I going to be different? Market conditions. Number of competitors and how long they've been in business. This is kind of what I was just referring to. If you only have one competitor and they've been in business a long time, it's going to be a little tough. Who are they? How long have they been in business? And see if you can figure out why they've been in business a long time. Do they run specials? What do they do that's unique to you? The other thing is your business unique? Is there no one else that's doing what you're doing? That's that's a good news, bad news position to be in, because then you can name the price. You're going to set the price, but you also have to convince people to buy your product that's not known. Supply and demand. We should all know about supply and demand right now, because we've got a lot of supply issues going on. And so that's an issue to deal with. And is your product in demand right now? Commodity versus a specialty. Is this something that we need to have, or is this something that we want to have? Pricing looks different, and your thought process on how you buy things that I need versus things that I want. Your thought, as a consumer, your thought process is different there. Local or national, global or local. I mean, am I going to sell on the web? I mean, on the internationally? How am I going to, so now all of a sudden my competition is like really wide. So now I got a different place to look if I'm going to go outside of my area. What's the economy like? Not only nationally, but locally. Is your local economy different than what's happening in other places? Are a lot of businesses closing in your community, in your area where your business is located? If you've got a service business, a lot of these are not applicable. But it's doing a services is another makes it a little bit difficult sometimes to find out what your competitors' pricing is, because businesses don't usually put their prices online. A lot of them don't. Some of them do. I hate it when they don't put their pricing on. As a customer, as a consumer, it drives me nuts. But I know why they don't do it. So again, global impact, what's going on in the rest of the world. Industry, is your industry growing or mature? And I'm going to show you this little chart here. Every industry, every business has a growth cycle. You start up, you grow and you grow and you grow, and then you reach this peak, and then your business starts to decline. Now, how far it declines? Usually it'll go like this, and then labor off, and it'll go up and down. If you're paying attention to your business, any business that's been in business for a long time will have its ups and downs, but you don't want this line to go too far down, because then you're going to be in trouble. The industry's in trouble then. And so what happens when it starts to decline? Businesses start creating different products. They start making them new and improved, and they add more products to the line, and et cetera, et cetera. Tough one, the tough one. And you can get sucked into the industry and follow the chart with them, or you can overperform, or you can underperform the industry as well. But it is important to know. And if you're in an industry that is declining, you want to find out why, and is there something that you can do about it to make it different? And again, you can find this information out by, again, using the Boston Public Library as well. Pricing strategies. There are tons of different pricing strategies, but these are the 4 basic ones, and probably the easier ones and the more popular ones. But trust me, there are more other ones out there. Markup pricing, where you just simply take your costs and you just say, I want to make 30%. I think I can get away with charging everything here 30% markup. Competitor-based pricing. Sometimes you look at you have to look at your competitors, and you can either say, well, this is what all of my competitors are doing. I'm just going to stay with this, or maybe you get away with a quarter or a dollar, or a minimal amount, but you could just do this. Now, the downside to this is that, again, you don't know what their costs are. Is that base pricing based on your competitor going to cover your costs and give you what you need for a profit? Value-based pricing, it's what the perceived value of this product is. Is a Louis Vuitton handbag is value-based price. There's a value of this bag to me that I will pay hundreds of dollars for it. Tiered pricing. Tiered pricing is a good pricing for services, for consultants, for web designers, for people who provide services. And a lot of times what you can do with a tiered pricing is you can have a basic price, and this is what you give. I'm going to give you A, B, C, and D, and then the price, this is, it's $1,000. If you want more, then then the next tiered pricing is, has 2 more items in it. And so you can charge another $1,000, whatever, but you have to play around with those. That's one of my favorites because it's an easy way to bring in a customer and then quote unquote upsell them. Once they know what you're about and they like you and they like what you're doing for them, you can start to sell them different products and different services, not products as much as different services. Oh, I did that already. Okay, so here you go. Price of the mark is a set amount based on the profit returns, and although it covers the production cost, it doesn't take into the demand or the competitive pricing. So here's the math on it. Just flat 20% on $100, and that's my price. And it's arbitrary. You are backing into your profit. Nothing wrong with this at all. You just have to know if this one is going to work for you or not. Competitor-based pricing, your options, lower, the same, or higher. And again, as I said before, if you price higher, you have to make sure that you are letting them know why you're charging them more. And the value-based pricing strategy considers the value of the product to the consumers rather than how much it costs to produce. Here, I'll give you an example of this one. I'm actually working with a client who is designing and manufacturing a clothing line. He's going to start out with 2 clothing lines, and he's making them himself. So we put together some pricing, and we were putting together a cash flow report. And he did a really nice job on costing out everything. And when we put the numbers together, he wasn't making any money. And he's charging $300 for a pair of, whatever, jeans or coat or, so it's a high-end product, but there was little to no profit there. And so now what's he going to do? He could take the easy way out and say, well, I'll just raise my price to $400. Well, don't you think you have to step back and think, well, is somebody going to buy my dress, sweater at $400? I'm not sure. Now you're into a different marketing category, and you have to understand that. So, and of course, when we went to go back to analyze it, what was going on, it was the labor. The labor was going to be a killer for him, and he has to figure out a way to bring those labor costs down. Otherwise, the type of business, or at least until he can get it to scale, is going to take a while. Tiered pricing. The auto industry does this a lot. When you go in to buy a car, you've got different cars. You've got a Yaris or a Ford or whatever the small cars are, and then they take you up different lines to a luxury car. And, the car dealers, they bring in the people with kids who are just starting out. They can't afford a car, but if they like that car and they stay with it, next time they get a car, they're going to keep upgrading and upgrading and upgrading. This tiered method also allows you to capture a bigger audience too, a bigger customer base. You're not just targeting rich, wealthy. You're also talking, you're attracting different groups of people. That's why this is, why I like this. And my upsell, as I mentioned before. So the key takeaways, you got to know what your costs are. You have to know how much you want to take from the business. Many factors influence pricing decision, and you have to determine which one of the ones that we talked about were most relevant for your business. Not all of these will be applicable to everybody here on this call. You're going to have to look at them answer them. You know, when we went through those marketing ones, you know, the age, the location, kind of answer those questions for yourself. And also too, you want to ask yourself, do I want, you know, what's the image of my product? That's, you know, what is your image of your product? And you have to do this ongoing. You have to, and you have to do it quickly, you know, to address the questions or the people who have been in business. I mean, you know, look what happened to the restaurant industry. You know, I mean, it is noticeable when you go into a restaurant that the prices have just gone through the roof. The grocery stores, as we all see. So you gotta stay with us. If you're going to increase your pricing, you better increase it now before inflation goes down, before any of this stuff, you know, these high prices start to go down, if they ever do go down, but I think they will. But yeah, you've got to address it quickly, and don't feel guilty about raising your price. You just can't. If you pay attention to that too much, or if you're just too stuck and can't raise your prices, then you may not be able to stay in business. It's just very critical to pay attention to this. I don't know if you saw this very much or not, but some of the restaurants in the beginning were adding a surcharge onto the bill rather than raising the prices of all the meals. They just put a surcharge on. And I think people looked at that and said, okay, well, that surcharge will probably go away. I'm all right with that. I don't know what I haven't seen that lately, but you really have to pay attention to that. And again, as I mentioned before, SCORE has found that entrepreneurs do price too low. And I still think the easiest way to increase your profit is to increase your pricing, but certainly look at that area. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the consumer determines the price, because if you can't find somebody to buy your product at any price, or if your customers are only going to pay so much for your product, then that's what they're going to pay. And you're going to have to figure out either to find different customers, new customers, more customers, or change your product line, change your pricing. And here you go. So I would be happy to answer more questions. Anything you want me to go back to?
Yeah, we do have some questions. We have some good ones. Is it better to do one large increase or several smaller ones over a period of time?
I mean, that's a good question. And, and there's not a one answer to it. Depends on what your product or service is. It depends on how much you're going. Depends on what your competition, where you are in comparison to your competition. If you're looking at this on a regular basis and you're not behind the 8 ball where you're like really behind now, and you have to take a big hit, if that's the case, I would do it gradually. If you're underpricing your product by like 30%, I don't know who's going to accept a 30% increase. That's a tough one. That may be an extreme example, but I think it depends on how much you're going to do, where you compare to your competition. One of my suggestions all the time is to start to introduce I'll say 2 things. Introduce your increase a couple different ways. You're afraid to increase your pricing on your current clients, assuming that you're a service business. What you can do with them is you can say, effective January 1st, my pricing is going to go up X amount of dollars. This time, this way you give them a little bit of heads up, courtesy of a warning. All of your new clients, excuse me, coming in the door right now are paying the higher price, or maybe even a higher price than that. So that's kind of a way to get around the touchiness of your, being nervous to raise the price with your clients. Again, you have to ask the question, is somebody going to leave me for $5? Somebody going to leave me for 10? Hopefully they are good enough customers and you're a good enough, business that they're not going to leave you for that. But again, if it's a huge increase, if that's how much it needs to take you to get up there, I mean, I think it's something that needs to be talked through. You know, the pros and cons of it all, and how much is it? How else can you do it? Can you do a tiered method? Can you increase your pricing based on tiers like we had talked about before? I mean, it's an excellent question, not a one answer, one response though. Sorry.
That's okay. Is a tiered pricing strategy good for a service business? And could you maybe give some examples?
Yeah, I think it's great for a business, it's particularly for consultants. I mean, if you, or even a web designer. I mean, think about a web designer. I mean, if you've hired anybody, you know, maybe you just want them to come in and do just the basics. And here's a basic package. As a web designer, I'm going to say, I'm going to do this for you, this for you, and this for you. I don't know how to do web design, so I can't give you specific examples. And then you say, I'll set it up for you. If you want me to maintain it, then the new price is X amount. So yeah, but you have to change what you're offering. You know, you've got to show the differences in what it is you're providing to them.
Okay, thanks. Can you quickly, can you touch on the Boston Public Library again? You had mentioned about Kirsten Library.
Yes.
Having
Yes.
resources. Can you explain that
Yeah,
again?
I mean, you just reach out to them. You can give them a phone call. I mean, I've actually done it myself. And they, you know, you talk to them about it, or you can go in there and visit them in person. They're downstairs underneath the cafe, and they've got a great staff. And as I said, they've got a lot of different access to different subscriptions that provide all of this types of research and business information, and they'll help you. Again, you could call them up and tell them what you're looking for, and they'll say, you know, I can help you or I can't help you. And then they'll go off and they'll go do some research and they'll call you back in a day or two. Don't quote me on the day or two, but I know they won't be able to give you an answer right then. You know, they're going to have to go back and do some research.
Do you know what types of resources they have?
They've got
They have lots of different things.
No, I don't. They've got like there are subscriptions that companies use, you know, bigger companies use, because they've got a hefty price to them. And I don't know if the library pays for them or if they get them donated or not, but they're just different types of subscriptions that have statistics on different things.
Okay.
I mean, there probably are some available even online. You know, I'm sure the government has some different statistics on some things. You're just going to have to either just kind of Google and see what comes up. Okay.
And before we do have more questions, but before I do that, I just want to remind folks that you absolutely can. You know, in Boston, we have several pricing mentors, and other chapters do as well. And they can sit and specifically go through, you know, your business specifically with you and help you figure out what things you should ask about, what things, you know. I just want to remind people there's no charge for a mentor, and that they can help you go through your specific industry. Okay, next question. Is it good to offer a la carte services if they're not big money makers for you? Should you only focus on spending your time on those services that produce the level of revenue that you need? I wonder if doing a la carte smaller services takes away too much time. Do you have any perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. We've got great questions today. That's a good question. I don't, you know, as I said, my background's financial. I pore over financial reports that tell me those types of things. So if you've got your financials created in such a way, your numbers should tell you whether this particular product or service is profitable enough or not. So you do need to know that. And you, unless it's a product or a service that you want to launch, and right now it's not doing so well, but you want to keep it on, or if it's a lead in, it's like somebody to get in the door, and then you can, you know, create upsells. But you do have to watch and you can get rid of things. You should get rid of things that are not profitable for you, that don't bring other business. They may be break even or not profitable for you, but if they bring in other business for you, then you want to keep them. But if they're a drain on your resources, a drain on your time, then it's okay to get rid of them.
Okay. This one might be too specific, but we can give it a go. I have a boutique recruiting agency and wanted to see if you have guidelines on what is considered a good profit margin for us for the service business. Also, do you have any suggestions on calculating commissions for employees who also have an hourly pay?
The first question, it really goes back to what your costs are and what you want to get out of the business. So there's not there's not a flat percentage in that there at all. You're going to have to you're going to have to just understand what you've got to work with and what you need. Otherwise, you could be pricing your product or service and not making any money on it. I just don't. In some cases, it's not the right way to do it. Did I answer that right?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. And then calculating commissions. Yeah. Okay.
Ooh, you guys are challenging me today. Commissions. Your commissions should be designed. You're making me go way, way back. Your commissions should be designed to encourage your sales support staff to sell what you want them to sell. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And the way you do that is by increasing this commissions. So maybe some of your products don't have the same commissions or services have the same commissions. Maybe they do. But if you're launching something, or if something's, something is very profitable for you, you pay more commission. You have to run numbers. You have to kind of do scenarios.
I have a question about templates to help you figure out costs. Would you have any suggestions for that?
Templates. Yeah. Well, yeah, let's see. Yeah, actually, we have a cash flow template that has a revenue prediction scenario to it. Yes, we do have something. It's very basic. It's a very basic Excel spreadsheet. If you send me an email, I can get that to you.
All right. I was just answering some questions in the chat about getting
If anybody
a mentor.
wants to take a look at that, just drop me your email. Just put email into Teresa and we'll get it to you.
Yep, absolutely. And I did put my email, which is the outreach at
oh yeah, you can do it.
scoreboston.org. If you have anything you need further, and that's how you can ask for a mentor, or you can go to the website and ask for a mentor. Someone asked if you're allowed to meet with any mentor. Yes, we work as one organization where we all work together to answer questions. So you can work with a mentor from any chapter, and it's pretty easy now, especially since we've gone to a more Zoom and based mentoring program.
And
okay.
Some of all of your questions were really good questions, but you do need to get into the specifics of your business, and it would be good to speak with somebody and have a dialogue, to go back and forth, to kind of talk this out loud, because it is not the same for everybody. And I do think that if you you would really benefit by chatting with somebody.
Yeah.
And you can talk to them about pricing, and then if that's been solved, then you can talk to them or somebody else about something else.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Whoops, I got one more that popped up. Somebody asked the question.
Did I answer the question about the commissions?
I didn't see a follow-up to it, so
okay.
I would say that you did, and if
okay.
not, they can definitely reach out to a mentor. Somebody asked if they need to wait to get a mentor. No, it doesn't. You're welcome to start at any time. We start with the people that are dreaming to the people that are already going. So it's never too early. It's never too late.
We try to match you up with somebody who has the most experience in what you're looking for. And many times clients come to us saying, I need help with X, Y, and Z. And then through the course of the conversation, they find out that, oh, I should also be doing A, B, and C too. So it's a little bit of a trial and error in the beginning, but most people stick with their original mentor, but you don't have to.
And it is proven that people that have this mentor are more successful. Answer your question, please. Oh, hold on. Let me find that question. I thought we did answer all the questions. I'm not sure. Definitely the person that just posted, send me an email, and I might still lost track of your question, and we can have
Or you can
Gloria.
resubmit it again if you like.
Yeah, either way.
Now, did I, if I didn't answer your questions, when you ask them, please just let me know. But again, I think some of your questions were all really good, so they deserve some dialogue.
Great. Okay. I don't know if we're gonna get that resubmitted, but that's all I have posted. That's all I've seen. If we missed anything, go ahead and send us something to the outreach@scoreboston.org, and I'll make sure that Gloria answers your question. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving next week. And that's all we have. Thank you. And thank you, Gloria, for taking the time to share
Thank you for
your
joining
knowledge.
us, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.